Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need.
Hey guys, welcome to the fourth episode of the Project Uproar podcast. Today we're going to be talking about unconventional careers, and we have a special guest, me and Ryan. We have a special guest. We have my brother, Animac.
Hey, what's up guys? Glad to be here.
Good to have you. So what we're going to do is, first of all, just to remind you guys that next week we're going to be talking about the War of Art, so definitely read it if you haven't yet. And what we're going to be doing today is pretty much picking Animac's brain, since he's been, along with me, a YouTuber for the past while. He actually went full-time before I did because I was still in school. So we're going to be picking his brains about it and asking him about his story, and so hopefully stuff we can learn about this cool unconventional career. I don't know if I should even say cool because I do it, so it kind of sounds like I'm praising myself.
Well, that's the only reason why you're saying it, because you usually never praise me as your older brother, unless it's also somehow praising yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, since you're my brother, it's pretty much praising myself no matter what. But, okay, so
maybe we could start just with our first question, which just is talking about your background. So could you just tell us a bit about how you got into this career as a YouTuber?
Okay, sure. So Igor might have told you guys, but we were raised by obviously very strict conservative parents, I would say. They wanted us to pursue completely traditional career paths. So both of us went through school and felt that school was like a really big deal. Like you had to do well, you had to get good marks, otherwise you're done. Like there's nothing out there for you. So I went to not only university, but right after university, I did a master's for a year and a half. Then right after that, I did a PhD in political philosophy for 4 years. Did all possible school I could. And then I thought, okay, sweet. Now I've earned, my degree. That means that I've earned a good job. I'm going to get one, no problem. And it's all going to be great. However, it turned out that, academia right now, being a professor at university, is not the best situation. Governments are constantly cutting funds. On the other hand, professors are not retiring because they have tenure, so they don't have to, so they can work into their 70s or 80s. So there are not very many jobs out there if you want to be a professor. So I tried applying for some. I also tried applying for, lower tier jobs like administrative and stuff like that. Not outright professor; they're lower paid. But I was thinking, oh, that's fine. I've been in university my whole life. I can do these things. However, I did not get any callbacks. Basically, I never got any interviews. No one cared. Some people said I was overqualified, which to me is just bullshit. Like, what is overqualified? All that means is I think this guy's going to ask for a raise before I want to give him one, so I don't want him to work here, right? So I was pretty disappointed with that because, like I said, I went the traditional route. That was all I ever knew. My parents instilled that in me. So I was pretty disappointed, a little bit depressed. And then, however, thanks to Igor, we were dabbling a bit into YouTube, making a video every once in a while about anime, which is one of our passions. And then when I didn't have anything else to do because I couldn't get a job, I decided to take the anime YouTubing thing more seriously, primarily because I saw that there were other anime YouTubers who actually succeeded and made a whole career out of doing that. And then we jumped into that about 2.5 years ago more seriously, and we've been grinding it out ever since. And now this is my full-time job. This is my career. I almost have no contact with the university setting after that being my entire life for so long.
Can I just do a follow-up question from that? Okay, so you said you were studying political philosophy. So then why anime?
Well, see, the thing is, anime is something that I just love because I've always loved literature. I've always, I wrote fiction. I still write fiction. I always loved literature and reading, and anime was a medium that I really got into because, again, I liked it as a kid, watching Pokemon, Digimon, all that type of stuff. But then, thanks to, again, Igor, I figured out that anime has a lot more mature series out there that don't necessarily are not just geared towards kids. So for example, Death Note was my big gateway anime. I saw it and I was like, wow, this is a really interesting thriller for mature people, right? So I really got into it. I thought that anime is a unique medium that is not offered here in the West. Like our cartoons here are not the same as anime. Our movies here are not the same as anime. So it really spoke to me. And I think there are a lot of philosophical messages in many high quality anime that I like to explore as someone who studies philosophy.
Very interesting. So, we were also wondering what you really like about let's say, an unconventional career path like YouTube, like entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, what are some of the pros and cons that you think there are with this job?
Yeah, that's a great question because, as I said, I grew up thinking very conventionally. I'm going to finish all my school. I'm going to get a traditional job that's going to be secure, quote unquote secure. I'm going to have, all the benefits, all this stuff, and I'm going to be set. With a job like YouTubing, there's no such thing as security because you never know when YouTube is going to change some policy that's going to affect you. You never know when there's going to be some adpocalypse, so you're making less money. So there's no such thing as stability. But on the one hand, while that's a con, I think it's also a pro. And what I mean by that is life is unpredictable. There's no such thing really as security because you could get a job as a professor at a university, but unless you're fully tenured, they could say, we're cutting funds, you're fired. Sorry, buddy. So that happens in that setting as well. It's just an illusion that we have security. So with a job like YouTubing or anything online, really a private business that you own, you are your own boss, which is awesome. You can make your own schedule, but that means you also have to be disciplined, and it means you constantly have to adapt and be sort of in fear that it could all be taken away from you because it's so unstable, but also that teaches you to be flexible and alert because that's what life is all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And I found that too. I feel like, in a sense, you can't get lazy, right? Because, some jobs, they pay you, no matter how hard you work, they'll pay you the same amount. As long as you do a bare minimum so you don't get fired, you'll be making a consistent amount of money. With something like YouTube, at least so far, I don't feel like we can be lazy because we are forced to kind of keep grinding because you never know when it's gonna, not be as well or something like that. So definitely there is this pressure, and it's a pro and cons, like a two-edged sword, because you have a situation where if you work hard and you want to work hard, you can make potentially more money than you make in other careers. But then if you want to, let's say, take a long vacation, or if you want to take it easy, be more lazy kind of thing, it's quite possible that the channel might fizzle out, that you can't just go months without posting anything. So that's something I found.
Yeah, and a question I have next, and if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to answer it, but what sort of reaction did you get when you either made like a declaration or you decided to tell your friends or family that, listen, I've gone through all of this graduate work, this education, and I want to do something so highly unconventional?
Yeah, great question. Just to touch on what Igor was saying just a minute ago, I think that what you're saying is absolutely true, and it applies to not just YouTube, because you mostly talked about YouTube, but it applies to if you're a Twitch streamer. It applies to probably like any online work, but maybe even more than online work. Anyone who has their own business, like an entrepreneur, even if you're selling something and you're making it yourself, you're only going to sell as much as you make. You're only going to sell as much as you actually, get the word out there and work actively on it. So I think it very much can be applied to any type of entrepreneurial business that you own yourself. In terms of the whole transition from my conventional mindset into something as out there as YouTubing, my parents and other family members definitely did not understand how anyone could make money online. They just don't get it, right? They grew up in a generation where to make money you have to do like specific work at a job site, with your hands, that translates into money. So they don't understand how digitally you can be working from home, producing content that you get actually paid for. So at first, my dad thought it was all a scam. He didn't believe that there was people out there making money on YouTube, like PewDiePie. Like that was all a scam. It was all a big conspiracy designed to make people waste their time, I guess. I don't know. But so yeah, he was very opposed to it. We had some very, choice discussions. But eventually, when he actually saw the progress and he saw the results, he got on board 100%. But before we got to see results, when we were just kind of grinding and putting in all this money, putting in all this time, making no money, because that's how you start with any business, really. At first, you have to invest your time, sometimes even money, without getting anything back for a while. It was rough trying to explain to people with a more conservative, traditional mindset that this actually has a future, that it has potential.
Yeah, and I think Ryan mentioned something interesting, which is specifically like your peers, for example. How did you feel, or even like, let's say, not family, but the community? They potentially saw you as like, someone who does school, someone serious, right? And then yet we were making these anime videos which were mostly humorous, right? So how did you feel about what other people might think, and why did you keep on going? What kind of thought processes led you to keep on going?
Yeah, so that's, to be honest, I just kind of got to the point where I was like, I don't care anymore. I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna do it.
No, I appreciate
I'm just
that.
gonna do it because, yeah, like I went through all the school, I wasn't seeing any results. I felt bad about it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do what I enjoy, and I don't care what anyone says. It's not like I have an alternative right now, so I'm just gonna go all in, and what happens happens. And yeah, we definitely heard from some people that people were talking behind our back saying, what are these adult men doing, watching cartoons and talking about them on the internet? Why are they wasting their time? Why they're being so childish? Because obviously anime and cartoons are associated with being a child often by people who don't understand that stuff. So we definitely dealt with a lot of that at first, but I just kind of tried not to pay attention to it and just kind of had really strict focus to what I was doing, and kind of what happens. And thankfully, so far, it's really all worked out. And no matter what happens, we've had a blast. We had a great time.
Yeah, we've definitely learned a lot from this, like whatever happens. And I agree, like I was so focused personally on actually doing the work and taking pride in the work and having fun with the work, the process, that it never actually even crossed my mind like what other people were thinking. Like I didn't even consider it until later somebody told us like some people were saying stuff. But it's like, yeah, that did not even cross my mind while I was doing it. So that was interesting for me looking back on that.
Yeah. I'm curious right now, looking back, you had this shift from thinking very conventionally to unconventionally and taking this risk. What advice would you give like your 18-year-old self, either one who's entering university or even one who, during your graduate work when you're thinking very conventionally, whatever point you want to refer back to, what advice would you give to that person?
Basically, think outside the box. Think way more outside the box. There are so many opportunities out there now with the internet. The possibilities are endless. So don't be so set on making your career what you think it has to be because that's what you learned and that's what you think. Don't necessarily feel like that school will solve all your problems and that you need to go to school to that extent in order to be successful. Now, there are a lot of useful things about school. It teaches you discipline. It forces you to read certain books that ended up being very useful. Like I loved some of the books that I came across in school, and I still use them today. Even when I do something like talk about anime, I'm like, well, the message of this anime really resonates with the philosophy that I learned from Jean-Jacques Rousseau, for example. Or there's some anime like Psychopaths that directly reference certain philosophers that I love, like Plato and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. So there's a lot of back and forth there. But don't expect school to solve all your problems when it comes to finding a job, and think outside the box because, as Igor says as well, the internet is the Wild West right now. There are so many opportunities. Be flexible, adapt, and don't, pigeonhole yourself into one career path.
Exactly. And I'd say that too. Before, it was really the case, especially when we came over initially from Serbia to Canada as refugees. It was pretty much the case. There were way less opportunities, and most people, the only way they did get out of, let's say, not so good situation or up to like a higher class was by doing well in school, working really hard in school. But yeah, I also want to say everyone who's listening right now that the world's changed quickly and it's going to keep changing quickly. And right now, school, although I don't regret it, especially the undergrad, I found very useful. And not only skills that I use for YouTube, but just the way I view the world and like, evolving as a human being. I thought it was useful, some of the ideas I got from that in like philosophical courses and stuff like that, the literature I've read. But as far as getting a job, it is not necessary depending on what you want to do, right? There's a lot of amazing opportunities out there with the internet where you can pretty much build a business around your passions and actually, make that a living, and you don't even have to leave your house, which is one of the cool things. So definitely, I agree 100%. Don't feel like you need to go to school, especially if you're doing it for someone else and not yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, this links to what we talked about last week. If you remember when we were speaking about how back then, a few decades ago, people went to post-secondary, but especially university, to learn about themselves and develop themselves. And it's only been more recently in the past couple of decades where that's switched around, and people are going thinking that it's going to lead them to a job when that's not the case a lot of the time, unless it's a specific co-op program maybe. So yeah, if you're going to school, if you're going to university in order to attain a certain job, just for that sake, I don't think it's all the time necessary. But if you're going to university because you really think what you're going to study is going to change you, obviously your university experience changed the way you think right now, and probably shapes the way that you create your content for YouTube. It allows you to look at certain animes through different frameworks that maybe you wouldn't have had before pursuing it. So there are definitely very personal benefits, but yeah, I mean, university, it's not just for attaining the job, but it's developing those intellectual skills that'll stay with you for a lifetime.
And I feel like one of the good things we learned in the English program specifically, but probably definitely in philosophical stuff and stuff like that, is that it gives you different templates for life, So maybe going into university, you think there's only one way to live. You need to get money, you need to get a secure job. And one of the cool things about university for me was really just getting those different versions of life from literature, from philosophers, asking yourself what's important rather than just mindlessly following a beaten path. And then once you have those different templates for life, you can kind of create your own. So that was one of the most useful things.
And if I may just add, in terms of if you are right now somewhere in university, take it from a guy who has a PhD, who taught students at university. Don't take your professors as knowing what they're talking about, because often they don't. Often even your professors don't know what they're talking about. Often they are politically biased. So you need to critically think, even when it comes to your professors. Don't think that they're an authority in some kind of infallible sense just because they're professors. I've known many professors personally. Some of them are great. Some of them didn't know what they were talking about. So I can say that, firsthand. Another thing I will say, though, if you choose an unconventional path, such as having your own business, whether online or something else, one thing that I didn't realize when we started is how much hard work it takes. And this is not just, just some, oh, it takes hard work, cliche. It's actually, I got into YouTube because I was thinking this sounds great. I can work from home. I can not work that hard and make a lot of money. It's all that exponential growth, baby. But in reality, it's not that easy. Yes, it's great to be able to work from home and make your own schedule, but you will be working a lot if you want your business to be successful. If you want it to be a hobby, publish a video once a month, then fine. But if you want it to be a business, you have to work really, really hard. You have to schedule yourself really, really tightly. You have to be disciplined. It's not as easy as it seems, and I can say that firsthand because I thought it was a lot easier than it ended up being.
Perfect. Yeah, and I agree 100%. Like, you got to work hard, and that's something I've been lucky with. I don't know if it was instilled in me by, our father's example, because he works like 6 days a week as a trucker, and, wakes up early in the morning and then works every day, comes home in the afternoon. But yeah, I've never been averse to working hard, like in school and everything. Like, I'm really willing to work hard, and I think that's one of the best traits you can have or develop if you want to be an entrepreneur, the willingness to work hard and even enjoying working hard. And that brings me to the next question, which was pretty much elaborating on that point you made, Animac, which is, what do you think are the most important traits that are important to either have or develop for someone who wants to pursue entrepreneurial stuff rather than simply following a beaten path?
Yeah, so first you have to be flexible and willing to adapt. So you can't have this really rigid roadmap set out for you and then expect it to all go the way you're planning, because no, your business might have to go in another direction. You might have to adjust as you go. You have to be very on the go all the time. be prepared to work hard and be disciplined. Because one thing that I can see from people, when I was in school and in terms of work, often they're not disciplined. They save things for the last minute for deadlines. They, procrastinate a lot, especially with phones and Netflix and all these other distractions. You can't do that if you're working for yourself. If you're working for yourself, every time you procrastinate, every time you don't work hard, you take a day off without actually needing to take a day off, you are actually taking away from your own livelihood. So you have to be willing to be disciplined, to work hard, and to be flexible constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So on that topic, I'm just curious because a couple episodes ago we were talking about habits. I think a difficult thing about the sort of unconventional path is you don't have that structure given to you, the 9 to 5. So obviously, I don't expect every day to be the same, but like, how do you generally structure your day to get what you want done?
Yes, so you have to. I personally could be more organized, to be honest. I don't have like a written schedule or anything, and I should, but I try to do certain things every single day. So I want to do a certain amount of work every single day. But again, you have to be flexible. So sometimes I need to write a script for a video, so I need to work several hours a day to do that. But sometimes I need to do visual editing because I have a video that needs to get out. I've done the script, so even if I feel like writing that day, I need to do the visual editing. Sometimes if we have a sponsor or something, they need us to make these changes to a video, we have to do that. So it's like the work can be very different on different days, but you got to be working every day. And yeah, you can take days off, like take Sunday off or something like that if you want to, but you still have to be prepared to work every day and get into the habit of working every day. And also, I try to balance my life by also doing things like meditating every day, trying to do some physical activity, trying to read for my own self-development, that type of stuff. Obviously, hang out with friends, girlfriend, all that type of stuff. So you can't just only do work, because I think it's possible to burn out if you're just into work. Igor might disagree with this, but because he thinks that you can always work more. But I think that you can also burn out. Even if you love something, you can get burnt out if that's all you ever do and you don't have any other outlet. So you have to have balance, but you have to be disciplined.
Yeah, I'll add, I feel like it's for everyone to decide, in the sense that I know there are examples, like if anyone follows Gary Vee, where he can work more than most people in the course of a day. But you need to know yourself, right? That's one of the most important things. And yes, there are definitely people who need that space from it. And even me, I'm not working all the time. I obviously have self-development as a huge part of my life, which is one of the reasons we started this podcast, which is not necessarily directly related with the YouTube channel, although indirectly it is. But for sure, I have stuff I do outside of working on YouTube and working on the other AnimeUproar business stuff. But yeah, I think it depends on who you are. Some people can work, a 9 to 5 and enjoy spending the rest of their time playing video games. And if they're happy with that, then I have no problem with that. It's just, if you're complaining about where you're at and the success you've had, you need to decide, do you want to sacrifice some comfort for getting ahead in, like, let's say financial terms, or doing something you really like? Or is comfort the priority and you totally enjoyed your 9 to 5 and you like having the freedom to play video games and having a vacation every so often? So I think it's everyone's kind of duty to figure out how they work themselves and what they want, and then to kind of develop the perfect routine for them.
But what if you play video games while listening to the Project Uproar podcast?
I actually do this. I actually recommend this. Doesn't have to be Project Uproar, but it would be awesome if it is. And yeah, I sometimes do that because this is the problem when you go too far in needing to do everything valuable every second of the day, something that directly relates to your business or school or whatever. And I'm at fault for that sometimes. And so, like, sometimes I used to play video games and I used to be like, all right, now I'll listen to an audiobook while I play video games, or I'll listen to a podcast that'll give me good ideas while I'm playing, so I'm not just playing video games.
So you're being more productive.
Yeah, so I kind of convinced myself into like being more productive. But at the same time, although I'm guilty of not doing this myself enough, I do think you need some like play, which would be defined as just like doing something that is not directly productive. You know what I mean? So sometimes, I don't know if that's, you can argue that everything's productive, but even like, let's say playing a video game or going for a walk or something like that, that you don't see immediate benefits from, but just getting your mind off of what you're doing can help you in the long run.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that especially if you're like a creative, if creativity is a big part of your job, I think doing something like just playing a video game or reading a book, or even if it's not directly related to your work, you're exercising your imagination, and that might actually spark some ideas that will be useful to you in the future. So, indirectly, a lot of things that we don't think are necessarily productive could end up being productive. Like, I know my parents back in the day would never think that playing video games is in any way productive. And yet there are people now who are multimillionaires from just playing video games online. So the world is changing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's an awesome sign of the times, where stuff that parents always used to be against in my generation growing up, now literally people are millionaires and making amazing money from getting famous off of playing video games, and it's like a viable career path. So never think that you're wasting time if you're doing something you really love, right?
Now, on the topic of family, this is a curious question that I have. What's it like working with your brother? What you do?
Interesting. This
That is
is
an
all the
interesting
dirt.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, like, I owe my brother a lot because he's so focused on important things like being productive and working hard and self-development. He actually revealed a lot of this stuff to me first and inspired me to pursue it myself. So, and he even got me into anime more seriously. So I think, like, I owe a lot to him in that sense. So I definitely, overall, I think it's a positive experience. Sometimes we get into it because we both have egos. Like, I'm the older brother, I want to always be right. He's the younger brother, he wants to show me that I'm not always right. So there's a rivalry there, and sometimes we can be a bit too much. But I think that overall, having a friendly rivalry like we do is good, because we challenge each other. If we don't let each other become complacent, because I don't just come up with an idea and I'm like, this is the greatest idea in the world, and if I'm just thinking about it myself, I might convince myself that this is the greatest idea in the world. But if I run it by him and he's like, well, have you thought about this? At first I'm like, damn it, shut up, you don't know anything. But then an hour later I'll come to him like, listen, I think you have a point, so maybe I change this, and he'll be like, yeah, bro.
Yeah, and I would say definitely, like, there is tension, because with another person you might not be as honest or feel as at liberty to say whatever you want, but when it's family, you're so used to being unfiltered with them that in business partnerships you can be a little bit let's say too free in kind of criticizing each other. Sometimes it gets out of hand. But I think that overall, getting into self-development has been amazing for both of us, because we both value it. And if someone's not living up to, let's say, like, the best version of themselves, or if someone is being too egoic, we can make that person feel guilty by reminding them that they want to be a self-developed person, reminding them that what their ideal self would be and what they would say. So in that sense, I think anyone working with family, if you're not just inhumanly just a good person and can, like, always work together with no fights, self-development is definitely a key to smoothing the edges of a family partnership.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point.
Yeah. I do have one question, because I know some people who are in this situation. So what kind of advice would you give for a beginning YouTuber, or someone beginning in a social, some type of social media platform, whether it be Twitch or something? And especially if it's someone who's maybe beginning and just having a tough time, maybe they think that success in it means, instantly getting views and subscriptions, but that's not really happening after they published maybe 10, 20 videos. What do you say to that person? Either is there different tactics they could use to help gain some momentum, or do you have other sort of advice for them?
Well, I think you have an entire new episode of the Project Uproar podcast just in that, in terms of advice for new YouTubers or entrepreneurs. But to do it as briefly as possible, I think that you should study your market. So see what your genre is, your niche. Is it anime? Is it gaming? Is it a certain type of gaming, like RPGs? Or Is it, political commentary? Is it discussing famous books, famous people, whatever, travel, whatever it is? Look at other people who are successful in your genre. Why are they successful? Like, what types of videos that they're making are doing well? What makes you want to click on that? What makes other people want to click on that? And then try to put your own spin on something similar and try different things until something starts to work. And when something starts to work, then double down on that. So make more videos along that same line, because clearly people are responding to it. So keep making them. And then as you grow that way, then you can experiment more with other types of content and see what works and what doesn't. But definitely the way we did it is, when we started at certain types of videos, when we saw that we're doing well, we doubled down. We made more videos along those same lines. And then later we expanded into other types of videos slowly. But yeah, you gotta kind of feel the market out, see what works, and then work hard and really hustle when you see that you are getting some traction. When you are getting some momentum, double down.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd add that, or even just I think what you said was definitely right, but just give my own take on it. I also think that you gotta prioritize at times what the market wants and try to like find that sweet spot between what you love and what the market loves and needs and wants. Because, if you can keep making videos forever, but if you're tone deaf to the market and you're not listening to the market at all, you could never take off, right? At the end of the day, you are trying to give value to people, so you want to sense what they want. And part of it, yeah, exactly. When you get something, for us, you try to find an opening in the market. And when you find it and people are responsive, exactly, you work harder on it, you provide that value for them. And when you provide value for people, the more people you provide value for, the more it's going to be sustainable, and even like it's going to pay off more financially if you do that.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to ask, so what do you think is the stuff that you're most happy with you don't have to deal with in conventional jobs? Because I know I have a few. So what are some things that you really don't miss?
Oh, so yeah, like the whole 9 to 5 dynamic where you have to be there at a certain time. I always hate having a boss looking over my head and like what I'm doing, and kind of like, even when I might think that I'm doing something right and they don't know, but they'll criticize you. Mm-hmm. I hate that aspect of it. And a big aspect of why I love having my own business, especially online, is that the potential is unlimited. If you have a conventional job, you're getting a certain salary, and you might get a 5% raise in 2 years. But when you're working your own business, there's so much more potential for you to, be more successful, expand the market, expand your content, make more money, make, more connections, expand your business into different ventures. So I think that the potential is the big thing.
For sure. Yeah, and also with YouTube, like one of the things I really like, and just so people out there who are wondering like what's possible in the unconventional career path would, get a little bit of a sense of what it's like being an entrepreneur or a YouTuber. And yeah, like we did like a whole Euro trip while we were posting on a laptop, making videos, recording them on the road. And we were able to do our job and pay for our trip while we were actually traveling and going to cool places. We did a Euro trip. And that freedom of not having to be in a specific place, but being able to go anywhere, is one of my favorite things. And definitely, like you said, a boss or someone who doesn't necessarily know everything that's going on, but still can criticize you, can be annoying for sure. Because with some jobs, it's like, look busy. It's not even like be doing work. It's like, hey, I finished all my work, but you're still on the clock. Here, I know before I had to at a hotel, it's like, here, clean the counter. And I'm like a front desk agent, and I'm like, I'm cleaning a counter. Like, so it's like they always want you to be doing something, or else they feel like they're wasting money. And here, you kind of want to do work because you're making it for yourself, your future business and stuff like that.
And of course, we have many friends who are still in the traditional business, And I just see from what they tell me is that a lot of bosses don't care about worker morale at all. Like you said, it's just a bottom line. I just want to milk you for everything you're worth. And that creates people who don't want to be productive. They don't have an incentive to be excited about this work and do a good job. And that's a terrible philosophy to have.
Yeah. And I think one of the factors is that you're so far removed from the actual owners of the companies so often that by the time they make the policy, the owners or something or whoever's in charge, while they're far removed from the actual, let's say, customer service itself, and yet you have to deal as the person dealing with the customers, you have to deal with whatever changes they make, and you suffer if they're like negative changes. So yeah, you don't have that control that you have with your own business.
Yeah, for sure. When you start talking about the busy performance you have to put on when you're a conventional worker,
Yeah.
the first guy who came to mind was George Costanza. If you've ever seen that Seinfeld episode where he acts busy on purpose in front of his boss so his boss won't give him more things to do. It's
Exactly.
just so true.
And I've experienced that too with like the hotel job. It's like, you know, if you look bored, if you like, you know, if you're doing anything, they'll find you something to do.
Yeah.
So you definitely gotta act busy. While here, you know, with your own job, if you act busy and you're not doing anything, you're only tricking yourself and taking like business away from yourself.
Exactly.
While oftentimes with these other jobs, again, there is that incentive of the possibility of making more. It's usually you're gonna make whatever you make, but then they want you to work hard anyways.
What sort of lessons, whether they be life lessons or other lessons, do you take from being a YouTuber?
Yeah, and I'll just add here, like, yeah, so, and you can add entrepreneurship if you want to, entrepreneur, but let's say we lose everything tomorrow, you know, we'd have to start from scratch. What useful lessons have you learned along the path of what we've done, building a YouTube channel, building like an anime-related business?
Well, the fact that you can lose everything tomorrow is to me the biggest lesson, because we are aware of that. We are aware that we depend on a third party, not third party, but like another company called YouTube, which is owned by Google. They could decide tomorrow that anime content isn't what they want to monetize because advertisers are complaining there's too many titties or whatever, right? So we're done, you know, so they could do that. Like, hopefully not, hopefully they won't, but they could. We know that's a possibility. So we know we have to be on alert all the time. We have to be on the lookout to diversify the business. We don't have this false sense of security, which often people have in conventional jobs, and then they just get shell-shocked when something happens. Like, how many times have we heard about, like, you know, people losing everything on the stock market and then like jumping off a building, like from the, you know, stock market crash of 1929 to the more recent recession and all that stuff. I think that it's very much problematic when you have this mindset that, oh, things are gonna go well no matter what, and then you're just shocked when you realize, oh no, things are not gonna always go well. Meanwhile, when you're prepared for that mentally all the time, you're not gonna be shell-shocked if something goes wrong, because you know that's life, that's how it goes. Let's go on to the next thing. And I think the fact that we did succeed in creating a business out of nothing on YouTube, where it's so competitive and so difficult, I think that gives us confidence that if we can do this, we can do other things too. So we don't have to worry. Even if we lose it all, we'll find something else.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say it gives you that sense of confidence. If you could do it once, you could do it again. But of course, you know, that does mean it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to put a lot of work, right? But yeah, if you did it once, you can do it again. And for sure, like, just the unreliability of things and the fact that we always talk about this, having your, like, not having all your eggs in one basket. So being aware if you're getting all of your livelihood from one place and trying to expand. And for example, we did it with through different websites like Patreon. We're trying to build our Instagram at AnimeUproar, and Animac also has the podcast Rank Cafe, which you guys should check out. So we're always trying to diversify, including like shirts at AnimeUproar.com. So definitely you don't want to be at any point completely reliable on one business, like for example YouTube, because it's a big corporation. They have many YouTubers, and at the end of the day, they could do whatever they want. It's their own private business, really. Mm-hmm. Okay, and Animac, any finishing off thoughts that you want the people to know, the people who are listening, fascinated by unconventional career paths, maybe younger people, maybe older people, whoever, anything you want to tell them?
I would tell them to keep listening. And what I mean by this is that every day you should expose yourself to something that you can learn from things like podcasts, from things like YouTube videos, from, keep learning, keep reading self-development books, stuff like that, because even though a lot of it is common sense, work hard, be flexible, you need to hear it. You really do need to hear it every single day to remind yourself, because if you don't, your brain will forget, your brain will go into autopilot, and you will not remember these basic commonsensical things when you need them. So keep listening to podcasts like this one. Keep doing your research, researching the market, looking at all the potential and possibilities that are out there, reading self-development books, because that really is the key to setting the groundwork for a successful person and a successful business.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks, Animac, for stopping by this
My
week.
pleasure.
We appreciate it. Our first guest on the podcast. So just a reminder, everyone, next week we're going to be talking about Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. So if you haven't read it, please read it. We'll just be dissecting various parts of the book. It's a rather short book. So any last words, Igor?
I'm super excited for that book. Definitely read it. Again, thank you so much to Animac, who I know is...
Are you guys going to validate my parking? Because
Yeah, it's at our house. This is not...
Oh yeah, wait, I live here? Okay, cool.
But no, he will be charged for parking. And yes, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.